Well, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of Tea with Louise. I haven't done one for a little while because my life's been absolute chaos, but but it's my absolute pleasure today to have with me my friend Martha Alter Hines. She's a fellow evolutionary-ish astrologer.
That's
And
such a good way to put it.
well, Martha and I, we're both kind of trained in evolutionary astrology, but have kind of branched off to do things our own way, really, which I think every astrologer does almost. But do you want to tell people a little bit extra about your background in social work and things too, Martha?
Sure. Yeah. I originally got my master's degree in clinical social work in 2001, and I worked as a clinical social worker, psychotherapist for a lot of years, specializing in trauma, attachment, working with kids in the foster care system, families, and the court system with all of that. So really intense trauma work. And also in the middle of that, I took off 5 years and went to massage school and was a massage therapist and did craniosacral therapy, Reiki, energy work, and all of that. And then I left the social work world almost exactly 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 4 years ago. the the call to leave was exactly 5 years ago, and then I actually left 4 years ago. Yeah, so that's a big part of my who I am too.
Cool. And one thing, I mean, Martha is a bit like me. She's very prolific. She's always doing videos and interviews and classes and things like that. But one main thing that Martha was called to put together she's also written several things as well. She could tell you about those in a bit. But one thing that Martha was called to do last year was put together this summit called Rebecoming the One. And I was very honored to be, one of the first people she asked, and probably was the first person to say, yes, yes.
You
I'm
were.
and we're coming up to the second year of Rebecoming the One. And do you want to tell people a little bit of how it came to you and kind of what the aim of it is and why I said yes? My followers all know immediately why I said yes, but yeah.
Well, I'm curious to know why you said yes, actually.
Well,
But
yeah, let me tell you quickly. My second book is written from a non-binary perspective, and I'm very passionate about, the fact that we are all connected and we are all one, masculine, feminine, animals, the earth, everything. So just the very idea of it was just like yes. So anyway, you tell me. Yeah.
well, yeah, and I'm guessing also just you and I are politically, I think, on pretty much identical pages. So I mean, there's probably some differences in there somewhere, but yeah,
Round,
so I'm
but most, yeah.
it makes sense. Yeah. So how it came about, like I said, when I was in social work 5 years ago, I had this experience where I was in this really, really, really intense position in social work where I was a supervisor overseeing this like very cutting edge liberal part of the child welfare system that was attempting to not take kids from their homes, but like give them all the resources we could. Okay, so it was really, really over the top, intense, high stress job. And I had this, but I loved it. I was passionate about it. And then I had this experience where a circle of 8 spirits came to me and told me that I was going to need to leave social work and start channeling. So this is a little bit different and strange for my
Yeah.
social worker brain, you know. But that's what happened. I did end up start channeling, and I did end up leaving social work a year later. And through the channeling, what ended up happening is that I was told by these same spirits that I needed to channel a series of 8 books. So it's called the Living the One Light series, and the first 3 are published. They were published a few years ago, called Living the One Light, Gaia speaks and the cosmos speaks. And they're pretty simple. They're just, reminders that we are the light, we are the cosmos, we are the earth, we are the divine. And then, but the next set of three, and the first three came through really easily, very fast. Like Living the One Light, I channeled in 2 or 3 days. Boom, done. I think because it's not a difficult thing for me in myself to know that I'm the divine, we're the earth, we're the cosmos. There wasn't a lot for me to process on a personal level at all. But the next set of three I've been sitting with since 2019, and now it's 2023. So those three are called Love Speaks, the Goddesses Speak, the Goddesses Speak, and the Gods Speak. And those three clearly, are also kind of like a little set, and they are about essentially the inner sacred union and ourselves as the infinite manifestations of the divine feminine and the infinite manifestations of the divine masculine, and then this healing that is needing to occur in ourselves and in our world, and all the parallels to, when we heal the inner feminine and inner masculine, then it ripples. There's just ripple effects. There's parallel healing that happens then in our relationships to anything. Like, that's my sense, at least, that there's a parallel to, if I'm healing inside of me with those things, then I can have better relationships with other humans, but also we can have a better relationship with the earth itself and with life. And, there's war, like there's going to be less war if we can heal those things too. Just, it goes on and on. So, but like I said, I got the directive to channel those books years and years and years ago. And I did channel the first draft of Love Speaks in early 2020. And then I spent the whole summer of 2020, when we were in lockdown and, wasn't talking to anybody pretty much. I spent that whole that whole summer channeling about the first 2/3 of the Goddesses Speak. But those are not published yet because I think they need to be published as a set, those three. Love Speaks, the Goddesses Speak, and the God Speak. And I haven't started channeling God Speak at all. So what's so interesting to me about that is, I think it's a reflection, the fact that I haven't yet is a reflection of my own need to do my own inner work with these things before I can really be a channel for it. But I think it's maybe also a reflection of the moment we're in on a collective level. And so on March 5th, 2022, my birthday, the day I turned 45, I was actually with some clients, and I got this flash, like a bolt of lightning went through my body. I had the third pass of my Uranus return, my Uranus opposition 3 days before my birthday. So it was like such a Uranian, literally I felt this lightning bolt go through my body. And then I got this flash of a vision of this symposium. I didn't have any clue about this symposium until this moment. The whole outline of this Rebecoming the One symposium flashed in front of my eyes, and I heard the words, "Do it." And so I didn't know what it was. I had never had a summit. I had never had a symposium, nothing. Right. And
there are a lot of work to put together.
They're a huge amount of work. Oh my God. And I didn't have like a big following or anything. Right. So I was kind of starting from not zero, but close to zero. And, and I had a few people I could reach out to, like you, who I thought would probably be interested, but not a huge pool of people to reach out to. And it just ended up, I just followed the guidance from the spirit world essentially. And it ended up ballooning into this humongous thing that I could never have imagined. Way bigger than I intended, actually, with 42 speakers and 1,400 participants, and people loved it. Hundreds and hundreds of people wrote to me. People from 52 different countries signed up, and what people were saying to me essentially was, a whole range of things like, this is something I didn't know I ever needed. And now I realize I'm 74 years old and, heterosexual, cisgender woman, and I'm a grandma. And I didn't think I needed to understand my relationship to gender or sexuality at all. But now I realize I do. And wow, I have so much more I want to learn about myself and about the world. So that's like one pretty classic. I got a lot of people saying that kind of a thing. And then I had a lot of people writing to me saying that, this is the first time they ever feel comfortable talking about their sexual orientation to anybody ever, as a not straight person. And so there's a whole set of people like that. And just lots and lots of people in all different ways saying they feel like they found their soul tribe, their soul, where they finally feel safe somewhere on a spiritual level. It was amazing. So I met with a group of the really active participants from last year a couple of times actually, and got their input, and then I decided to put on the second version of Rebecoming the One this June 2023, with their input. And what their input essentially boiled down to was they wanted more, but they wanted less. So they wanted less speakers, less talks, but over a longer period of time. So last year, the first year the symposium was over 8 days. And what they ended up actually requesting, and what I'm doing, is this year it's over an entire month. And last year, each day had a theme. This year, each week has a theme. So there's an entire week dedicated to the divine feminine, and then a week dedicated to the divine masculine, a week dedicated to the divine person, which includes, conversations. Yeah, that's you. That's you. Yeah. Conversations about the non-binary and things like that. And then week 4 is called Bringing Us Back to Wholeness, Rebecoming the One. So it's like there's lots of conversations out there about, people who identify as women tend to talk about the divine feminine. People who identify as men tend to talk about the masculine, maybe. But two things I don't see so much of. One is I don't see much where we all come together and talk about how we're going to do this together. Like maybe we don't see eye to eye. Okay, fine. So then how can we hold space where we can come to we all have the same goal. Like we all want healing around all of this. So how do we do it all together? Number one. And then number two, I don't see much of anything really out there that talks about the divine feminine and the divine masculine, but in a way that acknowledges and celebrates the diversity of gender identity and sexual orientation. So you can have this relationship with your inner sacred union and not be straight and not not be cisgender. And there could be all different ways of doing that, right? Like it could manifest in infinite ways. There's not just the one model, which I tend to see, which is you need to heal your feminine and heal your masculine and heal the sacred inner union. And then you're going to find the perfect heterosexual partner and your life will be great.
Yeah, if only.
I mean, and if that happens, I totally support that. That's really good.
Yeah.
But yeah. So I just wanted to hold a space that includes everybody. If you're straight, yes. If you're gay, yes. If you're pansexual, yes. If you're
alpha male,
yeah, anything. Like, well, whoever you are, you're welcome. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm interested actually, since you and incidentally to everybody who's interested in it, last year's recordings are still available. They're just up there forever. This is not one of those summits where you only get 48 hours to watch or you have to pay and things like that. This year, there are some optional paid workshops, but there's no obligation at all to take those. If they interest you, take a look. All the details to register for the summit will be below. And so you don't even have to watch them all in the month, So, because I know these things can be overwhelming. I've signed up for several and been a part of several in my life, and And to try and watch all those calls and take in the information is so much, is a lot of stuff. So that's what I wanted to say as well. So check it out in the link below and register. But I'm interested though, because we clearly have a similar focus in our work. As I said, my second book was really trying to change the language used in astrology. And I know that your summit is not only astrologers, it has other practitioners too. But I've also attracted quite a lot of 1-star reviews from people who are resistant to this change. Have you had any of that kind of feedback as well from people in these challenging times?
You know what's so interesting? I haven't, which
Maybe
is kind
writing an Amazon review is
of
easier.
maybe it's safer. Maybe it
Yeah,
feels safer. But
yeah.
I I I did have one person who was asked to be a speaker who has been avoiding it. And then I noticed why that probably is when I saw on his Facebook some posts about, the superiority of heterosexual people. And
Okay.
I won't go on. You can imagine, fill in all those blanks.
Yeah.
But it wasn't directed at me.
No.
So that's interesting. I did last year have one person say to me that it felt like, and this is not something I find wrong. This is just something that got me thinking. I did have one person on the other end of the spectrum say to me that they feel like it's gaslighting when I discuss the polarity of the masculine and the feminine, or the divine masculine and the divine feminine, and yet also am trying to discuss the non-binary. So I sat with that one for a while. It took me a while to really sift through my own feelings on that. And it was helpful. Like, it was helpful in the sense it got me thinking. And then what I personally concluded was, I appreciate that perspective. This person is pretty pro, I think they would say they're pro gender abolition, which is, really, really, really extreme. Like, on one end of a spectrum, to me, but maybe it's just because I'm not that extreme. So maybe anyway, but I would say, yeah. So this person basically, doesn't want gender to be a construct in a sense. And what I came to finally, when I really sat with that, was, for me personally, I think there's a medicine in all of it. Like that's why I am this year having a whole week dedicated to the divine feminine, a whole week to the divine masculine, because I'm guessing you would relate to this. I feel like when we go into, let's say, the goddesses, like in astrology, when we incorporate Ceres and Haumea and the goddess archetypes, and we really bring them back, that has a medicine in and of itself. And I wouldn't want to, and it's important to me that they're feminine too, even not that they are only feminine, but the Ceres archetype to me is so much about the mother, among other things, that I wouldn't want to pretend that she's not a she. Because for me, she's my first house. She's very prominent. She's conjunct my Pluto, actually. She's very intense energy for me. So I feel her in me as very feminine. And that's important for me to have agency, to feel like it's okay for me to be in my own feminine or in my own masculine, and not just sort of lump it all as one thing. And I appreciate and can understand the perspective that for some people it doesn't feel good. So I don't think that's wrong or right. It's just, for me, when I'm holding this space, I concluded it's important to me to hold space for each of it, all of it, and then bring it all together.
Well, I think, speaking from my perspective and the perspective I wrote the book from, and which is a perspective more as just an astrologer as well. So is that we all have Ceres in us, and Ceres is feminine archetype, but it doesn't mean she's physically female. You know, the
Right.
planets are not in human suits. They are archetypes, and they're archetypes that show up in every single one of us. So I do get the kind of perspective of the person who kind of, you know, wants to do away with gender, because in some respects I did that in my book, because I don't think the archetypes within us are gendered, but I think it's helpful to see them as gendered, to feel them as gendered, you know? Does that make sense?
Yeah. I think all of the above can have its own time and place that it's helpful. And I just wouldn't want it's, I mean, it's like with anything, right? Sometimes like if with a certain herb is going to be helpful, like chamomile might be helpful. And other times I've had chamomile make me nauseous, right? It's like,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I don't want to say like always only drink chamomile tea,
Yes,
you know?
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I think it's important to say for anybody who's interested in the summit that, you know, the week that is the divine masculine is not just for men, because we
No, no, no,
all
no.
have those aspects, the archetypal planetary aspects of the masculine within us. I have a really strong Mars, you know. My Mars is square Pluto, and it's and I've had people look at my astrology chart who have gone, "Oh, you're really masculine," and I'm like, "Well, I really identify as a woman, so it's kind of a bit weird to be told you're really masculine, but I get it now, you know, it's fine." So I think we have to separate somehow in our heads the or in our soul, in our spirit, our feelings, the archetypal energies and our physical human gender definitions and identifications. Would you agree?
Yeah. And actually, what's happening in the interviews for the Divine Masculine week, it's so, I would say that for me, that's the one that's the most emotionally alive because the Divine Feminine is, beautiful. And for me, easy. It's just, sure, I identify as the feminine and the Divine Feminine, and I love the goddesses and I love exploring the feminine. No problem. Similar to how I could easily channel the goddesses speak. Like, no problem. I can do that. I have my own goddess series, like monthly goddess. It's like it's a huge part of who I am. And the divine person also is pretty relatively easy, not as easy as that, but relatively easy because yeah, sure, I can identify as the non-binary and the everything. But the divine masculine is and I think again it's a parallel to the whole collective, the state of the collective. I don't think it's just me. I don't know. Um, but for me, exploring my own relationship to my inner masculine and to the masculine in general is very emotionally alive. My nodes are in Aries and Libra, right? And so my yeah, yeah. So my south node is in Aries in my eighth house. And 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 my Venus is in Aries conjunct my south node. So and Pluto, and then my south node is conjunct my Venus and my Chiron all in Aries, and Pluto is currently has been squaring my Venus, then my south node, and now it's squaring my Chiron. So these issues around the Libra Aries axis are very highlighted in my life and have been for a few years, which is probably why I'm sitting here holding this symposium.
And they're going
But
to be again because over the next couple of
yes,
years, because we
yes,
we can
the
reverse.
eclipses, yeah, the eclipses next October
Uh-huh.
are going to be to the minute. The north node will be to the minute on my south node.
Oh,
Right.
I have to wait a while because mine are at 0 Aries Libra, so
Oh,
right at
yeah.
the end of the eclipses. So yeah, but Martha and I share that. So maybe I need to actually focus on listening to the interviews about the divine masculine more.
I don't know. I mean, it's really fascinating. It's the only set of interviews where I pause and I disagree sometimes. It's really interesting, right? Like it's like I don't necessarily whole, again, with the divine feminine, the divine person, I just am right there with the speaker, like, yeah, great, perfect, beautiful, nice. And with the divine masculine, it's not that I strongly disagree. It's more like I sit back and I go, what? Whoa.
Yeah.
I haven't thought of it that way. I don't know if I agree. Like, I need to take a minute, I think that's what's going on in our collective. I think is that's part of the point of all of this, is that I think this is a great opportunity for us to, instead of saying, I'm in this camp, you're in that camp, let's just agree to disagree. I think this is an opportunity for us to come together and say, oh, and really actually listen.
I agree. Playing out in our society immensely, with kind of the rise of different gender identities and non-binary identities and the like, and also conversely the resistance to it and the return to being this kind of alpha male, or kind of could say alpha female too, in society as the resistance. It's definitely showing up. I do think it's going to shake out in kind of the middle. And I think that's why these summits are really important, so people can start to think about this and how it shows up in them. And really, to my mind, it's not about your sexual identity. To my mind, it's more about your archetypal identity, because I've been married 26 years, and we've been together since 1994, and I'm definitely not looking elsewhere for anything, but I can definitely feel it within me that there's all these other possibilities and things, and that doesn't mean you have to go and, if you're cis, go bi or go gay. This is not trying to turn anybody. It's just about looking about how it all shows up in your soul and spirit, to my mind, personally.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's one of the big components about one of the sort of subtopics that's coming up, especially in the Divine Person Week, is also about the whole phenomenon with our youth, with our queer identified youth, and the I have a 16-year-old who's very much in this world of questioning gender identity and sexual orientation, but especially the gender identity part. And that is just a huge wave through the United States, but I think through the world, lots of parts of the world. And then, of course, in the United States in particular, we have the other extreme trying to like hold back that wave.
It's not
and
just
so
the United States, believe me. I know we see it, but it's not.
Yeah. It's just particularly stark in my face.
Yeah.
I mean, I live in California, so it's not right in my face, but I went to college in Florida at a very, 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 very liberal school. That is, front and center in lots of this stuff going on.
You went to that school
I went to New College in Florida.
Okay. Well, yeah, I live in a red state, where they still, I think it's still legal to do conversion therapy.
Oh,
I don't think it's practiced anymore, but I don't think they've actually taken it off the books yet. So, yeah, that says something. Yeah.
Sad.
So there's definitely the resistance for sure. But let's kind of step away from the real heavy stuff for a little while, and talk about some of these, because Martha did a great interview with Heather Ensworth, and you can look up Heather Ensworth on YouTube, about some of these new dwarf planets and what I can't remember what the title of it was called, but anyway,
Kuiper Belt objects,
Kuiper Belt objects, trans-Neptunian objects, whatever you want to call them. So we both have an interest in that. We both have introduced a lot of these new energies into our work and talk about them. And And, I'd love to talk about your theory about why they've come in. My own is that they are coming in because if we look at the original, you know, the astrology that's been practiced for years from the visible known planets, a lot of that was masculine in nature. And I kind of think that a lot of these new objects are coming into our consciousness to help us do this rebalancing. Would you agree?
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that connection actually directly, but I love that. I think um I said this in the interview with Heather, but one of the things I feel I am very, very drawn to the Kuiper Belt objects. I'm a little bit obsessed with them at the moment. And like, I don't know, do you have this book? Kelly Hunter's
Oh, I know
Planetary.
it. I have not got it yet. I should get it.
Yeah,
I
you should get it. You would love
need to do the coloring. Yeah.
it. I haven't done any coloring, but I love having it here. And so as you know, Kelly Hunter is one of the big, big, big people exploring the Kuiper Belt objects, and I love her as a person. She's great.
Yes.
Um, yeah, she's really wonderful, and she's a speaker in Rebecoming the One.
Mhm.
Um, and so I'm extremely drawn to that Kuiper Belt, and I'm even more drawn to the Oort cloud. So I guess for people who don't know, right, we have the planets we tend to think of, which then end with Pluto. Pluto used to be called a planet, and now it's not. That's a whole other topic. But now Pluto is considered the first discovered Kuiper Belt object. So the Kuiper Belt is this like donut shape around our solar system, what we'd consider the inner, more Neptune and inward
Mhm.
solar system. And then the Oort cloud is outside even the Kuiper Belt. So,
I love the name
so
Oort Cloud as well, by the way. Reminds me of Doctor
I love it too. Yeah. Um, and and one of the big things in my own work that is pretty central is that I I feel really called to hold space for people, for us all in our own ways, to remember the full consciousness that we are. So lots of us who, you know, went to school and did well in school and went to college and maybe went to grad school and all that. I'm speaking for myself, and it's probably true for you too. It's like we were very supported to highlight and really focus on our rational, logical thinking brain. And that's very valued in lots of our society. But the rest of us isn't so valued and isn't so cultivated,
Mhm.
such as, even our heart or our body or body wisdom, or much less our connection to the earth, to the cosmos, to our soul, to spirit, to the divine. So I would say the biggest theme in my work in general is holding space on many levels for us to remember that full consciousness that we are. And when I tune into the Oort cloud in particular, but also the Kuiper Belt, I feel my consciousness literally expand, right? Because the Oort cloud is huge. It's so far out there. It's surrounding our entire solar system, and then even going in, touching or almost touching the outer edges of other, if you want to call them, solar systems. So like the other systems around other stars, our sun being a star. And to me, it's like when we're discovering these, when the astronomers are now discovering these Kuiper Belt objects and now some Oort cloud objects, what I'm feeling is that it's helping us to expand who we think of ourselves as being. Like it's just taking us further out with them. I think, like, this is all I think. I don't know. That's just, I'm feeling into it minute by minute and moment by moment.
I
And
feel
that's one of
I feel it's taking us out and in. No.
the, I love that.
because I am sincerely passionate about the fact that we are here to be humans on this earth.
Mm, 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 mm.
So they're kind of expanding our consciousness, but we are the ones to bring it down onto the earth. That's
Yes. And in particular, Haumea
yes.
is feeling so much like that for me because, as you know, as you've talked about, Haumea is in this long-term square now with Pluto, and
Yes.
she's on the south node of the moon right now.
Yeah.
So she's really highlighted, right? And she is the Hawaiian goddess associated with birthing things from her whole being. So one of the things I was kind of feeling into that energy and what does it feel like to me when we just had these eclipses and now we're moving into this new moon in Taurus, but Jupiter is about to enter Taurus, and when it enters, actually when it's even now, pretty much it's opposing. Jupiter is going to be on the north node, opposing Haumea, which will be on the south node, and all of that will be squared by Pluto.
Yes.
So yeah, and I mean, and then Jupiter will move on quickly, but that energy just feels like it's getting highlighted right this moment of this Haumea. It's like,
Oh,
what is that? Haumea on the south node, squared by Pluto, and now highlighted by Jupiter opposing it. One
also,
thing I don't,
and
yeah,
also she was at the point of the Venus star point that we talked about in
yes,
my interview. So
yes, 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 yes. She's there right now. She's at 29
yes,
Libra right
yeah,
now. Hmm.
she's back there where she was last October.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. So one thing I feel in that, and again, you tell me what you feel, is I feel Haumea energy again being a reminder that when we create, we have so many issues on this planet and we have so many things that need healing, and we've been trained to do it through our rational brain. I think part of what the Haumea energy in particular is helping us is to, like you said, drop down into our body, into our whole being, and realize, remember, oh, I am a creator being, and that creator life force energy of source that is me isn't only sitting in my brain. Like, that doesn't make sense. It's actually all of who I am. So I can birth these new things that our world needs from all of me, not from just this.
Oh, definitely. I
Yeah.
completely agree.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you, I think Ceres started it. I think I've told you my theory that Ceres is actually the missing personal planet. So,
You mentioned that, but I'm so curious about that. I love that.
well, she's actually, everybody always says she was asteroid number one and she's in the asteroid belt. But if you actually really look at where she is, she's just inside the asteroid belt.
Mm.
And she is the great mother energy. She is this nurturing, nourishing. She is what our needs. And even in the myths, Ceres or Demeter was this, she was very connected. She was a priestess of the Eleusinian mysteries. She was more than just Persephone's mother who was mourning her death. She was an absolute priestess who taught direct connection with the divine as well through the Eleusinian mysteries. And when I say taught, she wasn't even that kind of teacher. She just helped people to experience the divine directly, So it's a whole different paradigm to our vision of priests and, telling you what's right and wrong. It was more about experiencing what's right and wrong. And did you know that the Catholic Church actually kind of squashed the Eleusinian mysteries, and the original Christian church, they kind of deliberately crushed it. So
Wow.
that kind of explains a lot. So if anybody wants to find out more about that, there's a great book called The Immortality Key. It's quite amazing. So my theory is she was discovered on January the 1st, 1801. And I think she was this figure that was there holding space for us to do all this healing all this time. First as because even in her original discovery, she was called a planet first, then they demoted her to an asteroid, and then when Eris was discovered and Pluto was reclassified, she became reclassified to a dwarf planet, which is what all these other things like Haumea and things are called. And these are just astronomical definitions, which are great, you know. But I think astrologers have to get so tied up in that, you know, rational, this is a dwarf planet, so maybe that means it's not as important. They all, they all just have energy. That's all it means to me. But I tell you what triggered me thinking that that Ceres is kind of the missing kind of divine mother archetype in our cosmology or belief systems, if you like, was actually Mormon missionaries. Because my daughter went and talked to Mormon missionaries, and once they get hold of your name and address, they never leave you alone. So anyway, they came round one day to talk to my daughter, and she was only a young teenager, so I wasn't going to let her alone with these male missionaries. So I'm in the background being Mama Bear, being Ceres with my arms folded. And they're giving her all their preaching. And I was like, so what about the Divine Mother? Because they kept talking about the Heavenly Father. No, I said, what about the Heavenly Mother? And they made some thing about she's so precious that she's protected by the Heavenly Father. And so she's not visible to us. And I was like, oh, that's Ceres. She was there all the time, hidden in plain sight, kind of till 1801, and now she's
You
really
need to,
sorry.
you need to write a book on this. I'm serious.
I know,
You need to write a book.
I know, I do. I know. Well, it's in the off. It's coming. Yeah,
Good. No, seriously. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And so yeah, it's a bit like your book. It was waiting for some other pieces, I think, to be written. Yeah. And that was one of them. And I really think, you know, if you look at the older cosmologies, they often had like either a divine godhead who was both masculine and feminine, or they had always had a masculine and feminine god and goddess. It's only under our patriarchal systems that it's become this monotheistic father figure that rules everything. And I think we're returning to a more dual kind of state. So there you go. I'm supposed to be interviewing you, and I've told you my whole.
Oh, I love that. I really love that. That's really beautiful. I need to learn more about
But
series.
to go to your Kuiper Belt objects, though, I kind of think because she was kind of there all the time, and since 1801 has kind of been hovering in the background. When Eris, the great disruptor, kind of disrupted all our views of the cosmos, and then in came Haumea, and in came all the other ones. I kind of think she was kind of the bridge to all of this healing that we're bringing in. So.
That's beautiful. Yes. And I think you will love the conversation I had with Kelly Hunter for the symposium. The interview I did with her is called Cosmic Couples. And so she goes from, you know, Mars and Venus to Chiron and Cheroklo, the centaurs, to, and then I can't remember all of the pairs, but she's basically tracing, her thought is she's tracing kind of an evolution of the quote unquote cosmic couples and the role that they hold for us. And the last one she gets to, which I love, are Manwë and Varda.
Oh, I
Are
think.
you very familiar?
Yeah, well, I'm not hugely familiar, but I've heard her talk about them briefly. Yeah.
And they are named after characters in a Tolkien novel.
Yes.
So you will, I predict you will love Manwë and Varda. Kelly, there's not much that much out there, but Kelly wrote an article about them that is on her website, and it's also on astro.com. and it is beautiful. I mean, it's just so much about their archetype is I relate to it so strongly. And currently they are in a square with each other. So, wait, is that right? Yes. Okay. Varda, who is the wife of Manwë, and Varda is like she's like a queen of light. Like she brings in light into our world. I mean, among other things.
Mm-hmm.
And Manwë is like an ultimate creator god. And so Varda currently is sitting on the galactic center, like right now. She's at 28, I think, Sagittarius.
On my
Yeah. Oh, nice. Yeah, you have to learn it. I'm serious. Seriously, you will love these archetypes. I could be wrong, but I'm 99% sure you're gonna love it. and then this is so fascinating. Manwë is sitting at 1 Aries.
Ooh, I think I knew that.
So okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so Manwë is sitting, on basically the 0 point of the whole zodiac, and is a creator god.
On my
and is on your what did you say?
my south node.
On your south node. Yeah, so you need to learn about these for sure. For sure. Yeah, and so I don't know, each of them, they're so new to all of us, and so again, I don't feel like I can have an answer about what they are or what they mean or what they're doing, but each one, when I just dive in and I just sort of slowly trying to let myself feel into them, those are two of many examples where I just go, wow, what is this? This is beautiful. Whatever it is so powerful and so beautiful, with the goddess of light sitting on the galactic center. And then so wait, a square to 28 Sagittarius would be the 28
at one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which would be square.
So
Aries. Yeah.
yeah, which would be squaring Manwë. Okay, I got that right. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
I think it through for a second there. Because I swear they're in a square, but yes, they are. Okay.
They're just an out of sign square, it's called, for anybody who's not really into the astrology. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So Varda is on the galactic center with her partner sitting on basically the 0 point of the zodiac, right? And they're in this dance together. I mean, what is that? That's just beautiful that they're, I think, maybe holding this energy of, if we're going to start new, like that 1 degree, 0 degree Aries, we're going to start a new cycle, whatever this is. Where do we want to be getting our information from? I'd say the galactic center is a good place to be getting, to be accessing information.
It emits new information, by the way.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I would love to hear your thoughts once you feel into them. And
I'll read the article and feel into them
yeah.
more, especially because they're sitting on critical points of my chart right now.
I know. Yeah. So,
and I have to say, for anybody listening, we may be going far out there. This stuff is far out there. This is all newly discovered things that are coming into our consciousness. And we as astrologers, or whatever we are, are trying to make sense of it. And I know that people like Kelly Hunter and Martha and I and also Heather and Melanie as well, Melanie Reinhardt.
Oh, Melanie, Pam Gregory, yeah.
We're all trying to make sense of what this means, and we are many of us use our other senses to tune into this, I think, which is what all these beings, to my mind, are asking us to do. So, we mentioned how Maya, she's just like this pure creation goddess. So a lot of these figures are just these pure beings of creation asking us to create a new paradigm. So, if we all sound very spacey and out there, it's because all this stuff is very spacey and out there. But I have to say, I think tuning into Ceres and kind of channeling a lot of this energy through her works for me, because She is about nourishing our physical needs as human beings, and we have to do that to be able to take in all this amazing cosmic information, to my mind. So,
Yes.
did you know who her cosmic partner is? Seriously,
No.
it's Mercury.
Wow, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I need to learn more about that.
They were paired in the Roman Dei Consentis, the circle of gods and goddesses. There were 6 gods and goddesses. Mercury and Ceres were paired together by, I think it's Livy. Anyway, a Roman poet, and it just made sense to me then when I started working with them that this kind of trickster messenger kind of um uh he's non-binary, Mercury, crosser, trans, everything. um I've recently discovered, due to Wade Caves. Have you heard of Wade Caves?
The name's
Fabulous astrologer, but he does more horror-y, traditional kind of astrology. He said he associates Mercury with all the trans words, and I was like, oh God, of course he is. Transgressions, trans everything, not just trans as in transhumans, but trans everything. Transitions, he transitions between things. Yeah, so all the prefixes of trans, there's Mercury for you. So there you go. That'll add to your. That was another of those oh my God moments for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, in this course I've been taking a course this year with Heather Ensworth, which you know, and I like you said in the beginning, virtually all of my studying has been pretty deeply in evolutionary astrology. You and I were in the same course together many years ago,
Yes, we
actually. And we moved on at the same time also. And
we won't mention.
yeah, no. So yeah, so that's mostly what I've done. And Heather Ensworth also, studied with Jeffrey Wolfe Green directly and is deeply knowledgeable about evolutionary astrology. But one of the things that she also incorporates is some shamanic astrology. And with every one of the planets that we've been, focusing on in her course, there's, on the one hand, it's like I didn't really need to sign up for this to learn astrology because I knew it already. But for example, her approach to Mercury is so beautiful and completely different from what I learned in evolutionary astrology. And so one of the emphases of Heather is that we really need to have our own relationship with the beings themselves, the celestial body beings, right? And so, for example, with Mercury, we quote unquote travel to Mercury and sit with it and get it, that it's literally in between the sun and us. I mean, there's Venus there too, but it's this actual messenger between sun and earth, and Venus and earth, I guess, too.
Is what I do.
And
yeah, so.
Yes, exactly, right? That's just it, to me, that's absolutely key. Really important to me to have direct relationships with the beings that are these things. And then that just takes on a completely different, Mercury can't just be about our mind. Like, it's just not. it's so much more than
Far,
that.
far more than that.
Yeah.
So
So, I mean, and that's a whole topic,
but that means, I really feel that these new bodies are bringing in this expansion of understanding of what we already had as well. So yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I feel like I want to add in one other thing before we stop, which is, and you kind of touched on this earlier, another thing that's feeling so key in the way that I hold space for people, that I hope that our whole world of astrology maybe will do more of. I don't know, we'll see. Is that these answers and these energies and the solutions our world needs, really, I feel strongly, are needing to come through each of us, right? So when we talk about Ceres, or we talk about Manwë and Varda, or we talk about Haumea, or we talk about Pluto, or we talk about Mercury, or whatever it is, I don't want to be somebody giving the answers. I'm happy to give my feelings and my thoughts on it, but more than anything, I really want to be holding space, similar to what you said maybe three waves of our conversation ago about these like a way of being a quote unquote teacher that is much, much, much more about helping each of us to tap into the inner wisdom that is here, that is us, and giving the right structure and the right holding for that to feel safe to come through, to add to the collective wisdom, right? And not in an ungrounded way, like, oh yeah, anything I feel about Mercury is just true because I feel it. Like, I don't feel right with that either.
I call it embodying the energies within yourself.
Yes.
It's getting to know them so well that you really embody them. It's yeah,
exactly.
And in fact, it's so funny that you said that, because I'm actually I've got this opportunity to write for this website that's got a huge readership. Anyway, they've asked me to create a kind of beginner's astrology class, and it's my least favorite thing to do, just teaching what you can read in a book. So I'm teaching it so that people can embody their chart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what I'm planning to do in 2024 is I'm going to hold something called, I think I'm going to call it like Infinite Soul Wisdom Astrology 101. So it's like, because for the same thing for me, I would get so unbelievably bored and frustrated teaching, quote unquote, the basics of astrology, just repeating
keywords.
I can't do, that's not my role. It is, I love that there are people out there that do that. That's wonderful. And that is not why I'm on the planet. That's not what I'm here to do. But I am here to help people have their own relationship to all of these things. And so work. Yes. Yay. Yes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really fun and exciting for me.
Me too.
I'm so glad you're doing it too. Yay.
And I like that there's a group of us kind of really moving in that direction. And I like that it's mostly women too. Because the world of astrology has been, and I love men, I love male astrologers, many male, but they've dominated the world of astrology. So yeah, and it's time for a balancing, not for taking over, a balancing. Right. Well,
parallel to everything. Yeah.
We're at an hour, and I could talk to you forever, but we have lives, and I have the gym, and people have things.
Yes.
So I hope that everybody will check out the summit. It's free, apart from optional workshops. As I said, I'll put the link below. Check out, Martha's other work. Where can they find you, Martha?
My website is livingtheonelight.com, and the symposium and everything else I just mentioned is on there. And one thing I'll mention about the symposium also that I would love for you to join the symposium, period. But one of the things I'm really trying to do is, again, hold space for community conversations. And so part of the free symposium is also a free online community forum on the Circle platform, sort of similar to Mighty Networks, but different. And I would love for you to join the symposium, and then the link is there to join that, and you can start to meet people. I really intend for this to be a true way for you to find soul community that feels safe, that feels inviting, that feels welcoming. So more than anything, that's what I'm hoping is going to come out of this, is connections, relationships, feeling.
I think it will.
Yay. Yeah, I will feel happy if that's what happens.
Okay. Well, we'll wrap it up now, but always a great pleasure, and I'll send it to you when we've uploaded. See you later.
Wonderful. Thank you.